This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Philippines, good evening. Maayong gabi sa Tibok Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, up to Sabah. Ako po si Eric Espina at ito ang inyong nag-iisang republika. The person we're going to be talking with is another adult in the national scene. I think we need to be able to listen to adults in politics, especially those who need not be incumbent and yet are gifted with much of experience and wisdom. Considering that we cannot exactly laugh at his 34 years of soldiering, which has also defined his character and his convictions in life. He was a former senator, but once a senator, always a senator. He should be an incumbent congressman today, but that's a different story. Maybe in a different program we can discuss that, because his voice is truly needed for legislation, especially with so many templates of problems, conundrums, confusion, voices that are in the middle of all this national disquisition. That's why we're fortunate to have invited Senator Rodolfo Biazon, and the topic is national perspectives. Good evening, Senator.
Good evening, Eric.
Yes.
Good evening to everyone.
We miss you. The country misses you. We have not
For
heard.
the first time, I have been enjoying 2 years of idleness.
Okay. Yes, yes.
After getting out of, retiring actually, from the House of Representatives.
Yes. But I think it's not a good idea to be always quiet, because alam niyo ba, yung boss niyo kailangan din ng bayan, because we know at this time, maraming
Thank you.
kaguluhan. People would like to listen, especially to people who are not incumbent, because I'm sure they have the best intentions, being statesmen, to push forward a different agenda and an otherwise national perspective. Dito po sa, for example, we're going to be discussing today West Philippine Sea, the Philippine Rise, BBL, and hopefully if we have enough time, the new Senate building, which is going to cost, I don't know, according to some people, 10 billion, some people cost it as lesser. Dito po sa West Philippine Sea, I'm sure you have been monitoring what has been happening in the West Philippine Sea, the latest of which is the harassment of our fishermen in Panatag Shoal. And the response is, according to the DFA, is that they're going to exhaust all diplomatic action on the harassment by the Chinese Coast Guard of our fishermen. But is this as far as our diplomacy goes?
Well, I am interested in the issue for historical things. Number one, I was a young captain in 1968.
Yes.
Who was the operations officer of a super secret task force created by President Marcos.
Okay.
And in 1968, so I planned and I led the landing of our Marines to occupy the islands.
Okay.
From 1968 to 1970. That's why we occupied 8 islands at that time.
As a Marine officer?
As I was the task force
commander?
No. Operations officer
okay.
of that task force. And there were incidents that where we were reporting not to GHQ, not to SND, but directly to President Marcos.
Because he was interested?
He was the one who created the task force.
And he was engaged in the issue?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. You might remember, Eric, that when Cloma,
Yes.
Admiral Cloma,
Yes.
claimed that he discovered those islands,
Yes.
which of course is not true, no?
Yes, yes.
That he was the one who discovered it,
Yes.
the islands. Because the history of those islands started practically in 1945.
Okay.
After the Second World War and the League of Nations failed to define kanino ba ibabalik yung island. Kasi the Japanese occupied it,
Okay.
including Taiwan and etc. etc. Now, to cut the story short, after the Second World War, with the League of Nations at
Yes,
that time,
yes.
with the League of Nations failing to define kanino ibabalik yung mga isla na yan,
Yes.
maraming claims.
Okay.
For example, the French put a claim on Paracels.
Okay. Yes.
And that claim of the French was the basis of the Vietnamese claim
Okay.
to the as a matter of fact, they occupied the Paracels.
Paracels, yes.
This is different from the Spratlys.
Yes. Yes. Oh,
Right.
yes. This is closer to the Vietnam coast.
But the interest of the Vietnamese expanded towards the Spratlys. For example, in 1975, when the South Vietnam government fell and the North Vietnamese took over,
Yes.
sometime April of 1975, that was the month the South Vietnamese fell, no?
Oh, yes.
We failed to occupy one island because there was no vegetation, there was no water, so we occupied the near island, Pag-asa.
Pag-asa, yes.
This is Pugad, which the South Vietnamese occupied, was the one we failed to occupy.
And we should have.
We should have,
Okay.
you know.
Why
One morning-
why didn't we occupy it, Senator? I mean,
The reason is it was only 1,200 yards from our island.
okay.
So we could, seemingly
Just
be
walk
able
over?
to monitor, And as a matter of fact, we were crossing over to that island.
Okay.
1,200 yards lang eh.
Okay.
And when South Vietnam fell, no. Before South Vietnam fell, South Vietnam came and occupied it in the middle of the night.
While we were sleeping.
While we were sleeping.
Oh.
And so there, we failed to occupy it. South Vietnam occupied it. But sometime April of 1975, during the fall of Vietnam,
Yes.
South Vietnam,
Yes. They pulled out.
one morning, no, they did not.
They
They
maintained
were
it.
still there, but one night,
Yeah.
there was firing in that island.
Okay.
And then the next morning, our Marines saw that the flag that was flying there, which was South Vietnam,
Has changed.
was changed to
Already.
the North Vietnamese flag. The Vietnamese detachment was so infiltrated by the North Vietnamese that they kill all.
Patay lahat?
Hindi naman.
Oh.
Kasi kasama sila eh.
Okay.
Hindi alam na sympathetic na sa North Vietnam yung detachment doon, except for some. Two South Vietnamese escaped by swimming
To us.
from that island
To
to our
us.
island.
Okay.
Kinuha namin yung island. So that's the story there.
Are they in the Philippines, these two individuals?
We took them here.
And
As
then?
a matter of fact, we made them mechanic, as mechanic in a marine motor pool, Philippine marine motor pool, until the U.S. government
Got them.
heard of it and got them.
Okay.
And took them to New York.
Okay.
So this is the, so we occupied the islands. But more importantly, I think I was engaged in kasi the discussion for the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea
yes.
started 1973
Okay.
and was finished in 1982. in Jamaica.
Yes.
But it was not put into effect
Because of...
until 1994.
Okay.
I mean, the provisions of UNCLOS was put into effect in 1994.
And you were author of the
Baseline law.
baseline law. Okay.
That baseline law, we were required by the United Nations to submit a baseline law.
Okay.
So, Philippine Congress had to enact
Yes.
a law. Except that there were so many versions.
Yes.
So, my version, I studied it and I saw to it that my version would be in accordance with the provisions of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea.
Okay.
Because if we file any protest, any claim over the area, we have to refer it to the United which
Nations.
we did.
Yes.
And if our baseline law is not in accordance with the UNCLOS,
Yes.
our claims and protests will only land in will be thrown into the waste basket.
Yes.
So I saw to it that
Yes.
it must be. And it was my version that was
That was
approved.
adopted. Yes. Okay.
Yes, approved by both houses.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, sabi ni President of the
Ramos.
Senate, President of the Senate, Enrile,
Okay.
when he saw and we approved the Senate version, he said, Pong, ikaw na ang mag-argue
Oh, yes.
doon sa BICAM.
Yes,
Kasi iba ang version
Sa House.
ng House.
Oo.
So, indeed, I was the one. And my argument was simple. One is that if we file the Democrat any protest, any claim relative to the area, to the only body that can resolve any dispute,
yes.
United Nations bodies, walang mangyayari sa protest natin. So, na-approve yung akin.
Yes.
And that's what it is. And I was asked, as a matter of fact, by the House of Representatives to join the team that went to the Permanent Court of Arbitration in the Netherlands.
Okay.
Because our lawyers, American lawyers,
Yes.
heard that I was involved in the occupation planning and occupation of the thing. So, kinumbida ko. And doon ko nakita, nandoon yung Japanese, nandoon yung Australians, nandoon yung Vietnamese,
Yes.
nandoon ang, I think there was a delegation of Singapore. I asked them, these foreign observers, I said, why are you here? We are interested because they are basically the claimants.
Yes.
The other claimants.
Co-claimants, yeah.
So we are interested with what happens to your case. Now, if you win, they said, we win too.
Yes.
I said, that's not the end of the story. Because if we win, your counterclaims will be a problem
Against
that
us.
we have to handle. So we have to talk. But it's best that there is a resolution by the international body. For example, the Japanese team, members of the parliament,
Yes.
the Japanese Diet, and some diplomats, Japanese diplomats, visited me in the House of Representatives 5 different times.
Okay. Okay, you hold on to that thought, Senator. No, we're going to pause for a few reminders, and we'll continue with the 5 Japanese members the ones who visited Senator Biazon when he was congressman. When we return.